Have you ever felt out of place, like you were meant for something more but couldn't quite figure out what it was? I certainly have, and if you're reading this, I have a feeling you might be in the same boat. It's almost as if there's this quiet voice in the back of your mind constantly whispering, "This isn't it. You don't belong here." It started when I was young, this nagging sense that the world was playing by rules that I didn't quite understand, rules that felt suffocating. I asked questions, a lot of them. Why do we do things this way? Who says this is right? Why do we follow these rules? The answers I got were either silence or harsh dismissal, and that only made the questions grow louder in my mind. Growing up, I began to notice things most people didn't see. I saw how people blindly accepted the constraints of society without ever questioning them. I saw them in the cages they didn't even realize they were in, cages built of fear, conformity, and societal expectations. I watched as they let their dreams fade, bound by invisible chains that they never dared to challenge. For years, I thought I was just different, that something was wrong with me because I couldn't fit in. But over time, I realized I wasn't meant to fit in. I was never meant to conform to a world that didn't serve me. I learned something powerful through this struggle. The feeling of being different, the sense that you don't belong, isn't a mistake. It's a sign that you are awakening, that your soul is pushing you to something greater. The truth is, the world isn't designed for people like us, the ones who see through the veil, the ones who dare to ask why, the ones who will never accept the status quo just because it's easy or expected. As you read this, you might be thinking, "I've always felt like an outsider." You are not alone in that. In fact, you're exactly where you need to be. The question is, are you ready to embrace that feeling and step into the truth of who you really are? The invisible prison of the world, why they try to dim your light. Look around. What do you see? A world that tells you who to be, how to live, and what to believe. We are born into this world, conditioned from the start to fit into its rigid mold, to think in a certain way, to follow an established script. I remember the first time I started noticing how this system worked and how deeply it affected me. As a kid, I was constantly reminded to be quiet, to follow the rules, to not question authority. It was as if every time I tried to think for myself, I was met with resistance, sometimes subtle, sometimes blunt. The education system taught me to memorize facts, but never to challenge them. Media filled my head with things I should fear, things I should desire, all while ignoring the real questions of life. I felt like a cog in a machine, like I was just a small part in a massive system that didn't care about me. But it wasn't just me, it was everyone. People were living their lives on autopilot, unaware that they were prisoners in their own minds, prisoners to a system that demanded their obedience. But here's the thing that took me a long time to realize: this system doesn't work for us. It works for those who run it. It works for those who profit from our compliance. They want us to believe that we're powerless, that we can't break free. They dim our light because they fear it. They fear what happens when we awaken, when we realize that we are not bound by the rules they've created. What if I told you that everything you've been taught is a lie, that your power is far greater than you've ever been led to believe, that the walls of this prison are not made of steel or brick, but of fear, doubt, and limiting beliefs that have been planted in your mind since childhood? The truth is, you have the key to your own freedom. You just need to reclaim it. When you do, nothing will be able to hold you back. The path to awakening your true connection with reality. It started small, almost imperceptibly. I remember that feeling like a shift in the air. One moment I was living my life, following the rules, doing what I was told. And then, almost without warning, something inside me cracked open. It wasn't a loud, dramatic moment. It wasn't some earth-shattering event. It was quieter than that. A subtle realization that everything I had been taught to believe was just wrong. I began to see things differently. The world around me, the one I thought was solid, unchangeable, started to feel like a construct. A carefully crafted illusion designed to keep me in line. Maybe you've had this experience too. Perhaps it happened when you questioned a rule that didn't make sense, or when you realized that the people in power, the ones who were supposed to have all the answers, didn't actually know any more than you did. Maybe you started to feel that nagging sense that there was more to life than what you were being told, that you were meant for something bigger. When I had this realization, it was both frightening and exhilarating. I began to understand that reality is not fixed. It's not set in stone. Reality is fluid, shaped by our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. The greatest minds throughout history understood this. They saw the world not for what it was, but for what it could be. They didn't let the limitations imposed by society define them. They broke free and redefined the rules. And so can you, but breaking free requires a shift, a deep inner transformation. It requires you to stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as the creator of your own reality. The moment you realize this, everything changes. You realize that you have the power to create the life you want, not through waiting or hoping, but through action. And this is where the path of awakening truly begins. It's the moment you realize that the life you've been told to live is not the only option. It's the moment you begin to see beyond the illusion and take your first step into your true power. Are you ready to step into your full potential? The path to awakening is waiting for you. Fear and power, why they are afraid of you discovering the truth. It was a moment I'll never forget. I was sitting in my living room, scrolling through my phone. When it hit me, they were controlling me. All the time, I had been living in fear, a fear of judgment, a fear of failure, and I didn't even realize how deeply it had shaped my life. Fear was the chain that kept me in line, and as I sat there, the full weight of this realization began to settle in. It wasn't just me. Fear is the weapon they use to keep all of us small. Fear of questioning the system, fear of thinking differently, fear of stepping outside the box. I could feel the heat rise in my chest. How had I been so blind? How had I let fear control my every decision, every move? It's like the world had taught me that fear was a natural part of life, something to be expected, something to respect. But in that moment, I realized that fear is not natural. It's learned. It's conditioned. We're born fearless, but the world teaches us to fear rejection, fear failure, fear standing out. And this fear, it's not our fear. It belongs to those who benefit from our compliance. Think about it for a second. Have you ever wondered why questioning authority is so often met with hostility? Why we're taught to follow the rules without ever asking why? It's because those in power are afraid of independent thought. They are terrified of what happens when one person, just one person, realizes that they have power. True power doesn't come from following the rules. It comes from breaking them. It comes from understanding that fear is nothing more than a tool to keep you controlled. The truth is, those in power don't want you to see your potential. They don't want you to discover who you really are because they know that once you realize your true power, you become unstoppable. A person who is not afraid, who does not seek approval, cannot be controlled. And that is why they work so hard to keep us in line. They need us to be afraid. They need us to doubt ourselves. Because the moment we stop fearing, the moment we stop seeking approval, we break free from their system. I remember the exact moment when I stopped living in fear. It wasn't easy. It wasn't a dramatic shift. It was a quiet rebellion. I began to question everything. Why do I fear failure? Why do I fear rejection? What if I stopped caring about what others think? And the more I questioned, the more I realized that fear had no power over me unless I let it. Fear is just a shadow, a trick. And once you step into your own light, fear disappears. It's the fear of your potential, your power that keeps them in control. And when you wake up to that, everything changes. You become untouchable. They become afraid. The universal code, how to unlock your true potential. I was in a dark place. For years, I believed the lie that I was just another cog in the machine. I watched as people around me followed the same routine, the same script. We wake up, go to work, consume, repeat. But deep inside, something was stirring. Something that told me this couldn't be it. There had to be more. And one day the answer came to me, the code. The key to unlocking your true potential is something simple yet profound. It's a code that runs through everything you do, through every thought you think, and every decision you make. When I first discovered this universal truth, I was skeptical. It seemed too simple, too easy. How could my thoughts, my beliefs shape the reality around me? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this truth wasn't new. It's a principle that has been known by the greatest thinkers, visionaries, and creators in history. They understood something that most of us have forgotten. We are the creators of our own reality. Everything starts with a thought. Every dream, every invention, every moment of transformation begins as a single thought, a vision of what could be. And yet, most of us go through life not realizing the power of our thoughts. We let others dictate our beliefs, our dreams, and our potential. We let society tell us who we are and what we're capable of. But the truth is, we are so much more than that. When I started to truly understand this universal code, I began to take control of my thoughts. I stopped letting external influences define me. I stopped letting fear dictate my actions. And that's when everything started to shift. I realized that I had been living under someone else's rules, following someone else's script. But I didn't have to. The truth is, you don't have to either. The code is simple. Your thoughts shape your reality. Your beliefs shape your thoughts. And your actions are the reflection of both. If you want to unlock your true potential, you need to start by reprogramming your mind. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts. You must truly believe that you are capable of more. And that belief must drive your actions. It must guide every step you take. I know it's not easy. The world is full of distractions, full of voices telling you what you can and can't do. But the truth is, those voices don't matter. The only voice that matters is yours. And once you begin to listen to it, once you begin to trust in your own power, you'll see that the world around you starts to change. The first step is always the hardest, but it's the most important. You must choose to believe in yourself. You must choose to see the possibilities instead of the limitations. You must choose to take action, even when fear tries to hold you back. The code is there, waiting for you to unlock it. It's waiting for you to claim your power. And once you do, there's nothing that can stop you. So what's stopping you? What's holding you back from stepping into your true potential? The only thing that stands between you and your dreams is the belief that you can't have them. And that, my friend, is a lie. The truth is, you can have everything you've ever wanted. You can unlock your true potential. And when you do, you'll realize that the life you've been searching for has been within you all along. It's time to claim it. Hacking reality, how to break free from the system's control. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I was sitting in front of my computer, the screen flashing with a never-ending list of tasks, emails, and notifications. The usual routine: wake up, work, consume, repeat. For years, I'd been stuck in the cycle, never questioning it, just going along. But something inside me snapped that day. I looked around at the world and realized something unsettling. This wasn't real. Not the life I was living, not the world I was seeing. And certainly not the limits I had been accepting. At that moment, it felt as though the world was a stage, and I had been an actor following a script written by someone else. I was playing a part, but it wasn't mine. I was living by rules that weren't mine to begin with. Have you ever felt that way? Like the world is running a program, and you're just another part of it. It's like you're in a game, following all the rules, but never fully understanding who made them or why you're playing. That's when it hit me. I had been living inside someone else's design, and to break free, I had to hack reality. The truth is, most people live their entire lives trapped in a system that was built to keep them controlled. The media tells us what to fear, what to desire, what to believe. The education system molds us into workers, not thinkers. The financial system keeps us chained to jobs we don't love, just to survive. But here's the secret no one tells you. This system only has power over you if you let it. I realized that I had been playing by a set of rules that I never agreed to. I had been part of the system, but I had never questioned it. I was conditioned to think that my life had to follow this linear path, that I had no other choice. But I knew deep down that wasn't true. I started to dig deeper, to ask questions. Why was I working so hard, only to feel like I was getting nowhere? Why was I taught to depend on an unreliable system who was benefiting from my complacency? And then it clicked. This system was designed for one purpose: control. The people in power didn't want me to question, to break free. They wanted me to stay distracted, to keep working, to keep consuming, to keep following. But what they didn't realize was that the more I questioned, the more I saw through the illusion. the more I started to wake up. So I took action. I stopped playing by their rules. I started to detach from the things that didn't serve me. I stopped waiting for permission to live my life. I began to create my own rules. I learned new skills, ones that allowed me to break free from the constraints of the system. I built income streams that didn't rely on my employer's paycheck. I stopped being a cog in the machine and became the one who was pulling the strings. Hacking reality isn't about fighting the system. It's about recognizing that the system isn't as powerful as we've been led to believe. The moment you realize that, everything changes. You see the strings pulling the world around you, and you learn how to break free. You stop seeking validation from external sources, and you start creating your own path. This is how you break free from the system's control. You must take action, the first step to mastering your destiny. I remember the moment it hit me. Knowledge alone wasn't enough. I had spent so many years reading self-help books, watching motivational videos, and taking courses, thinking that eventually the answers would come to me. But the answers weren't in those books, or in videos, or in someone else's story. The answers were inside me. And yet, despite all the knowledge I had acquired, I wasn't moving. I wasn't taking action. I was stuck. It was like I had all the pieces of the puzzle, but no idea how to put them together. I would sit for hours, planning, dreaming, but never actually doing. It wasn't until I realized the truth that everything changed. You cannot wait for the right moment. There is no perfect time to start. If you want to change your life, you have to take action now. You might be waiting for the right moment to take that leap, to start something new, to make a change. But the truth is, the right moment is a myth. I spent so much time waiting for the stars to align, for everything to be perfect before I could act. And guess what? It never happened. The perfect time will never come. The only time that matters is now. The only moment that is real is the one you're in right now. I began to understand that the only way to change my destiny was to take action, no matter how small the step. It didn't matter if I didn't have all the answers yet. What mattered was that I was moving forward. I stopped waiting for permission, and I stopped being afraid of failure. I realized that failure wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. Every failure taught me something. Every setback was a lesson. The more I failed, the closer I got to success. Taking action isn't just about doing something, it's about taking control. It's about shifting your mindset from passivity to activity. It's about deciding that you are in charge of your life and you are going to make things happen no matter what. This is the moment when you stop being a passive observer of your life and become the creator of your destiny. But here's the hard truth. The world doesn't care about your dreams until you do something about them. No one is going to come and give you permission to start. No one is going to hand you a blueprint for success. If you want something, you have to go after it, and it starts with one step. You might not know the whole journey yet, but you'll figure it out as you go. So I started. I took that first step. I made that phone call, signed that contract, launched that website. And from that moment on, everything began to change. The more I acted, the more momentum I gained. The more I moved, the clearer the path became. And I realized that the only way to master my destiny was to take action, to trust myself, and to keep moving forward. Conclusion. As I look back on everything I've learned, one thing stands out above all. The life you want is not handed to you. It's not something you wait for. It's something you create. You have all the power you need to change your life right now. The question is, are you ready to take control? We've all been conditioned to believe that we are powerless, that we must follow the rules, play the game, and accept what life gives us. But what if I told you that you don't have to accept anything you don't want? What if I told you that the system is not as powerful as it seems, and the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the decision to break free? It won't be easy. There will be doubts, fears, and obstacles along the way. But here's the truth. There is no other way. If you want a life of freedom, fulfillment, and power, you have to take action. You have to break free from the system's control. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you have to take that first step. The moment you do, everything will begin to change. You are the creator of your reality. You are the master of your destiny, and it's time for you to start living like it. So, what will you do? Will you keep waiting, or will you take control and begin your journey toward the life you were meant to live? The choice is yours.